I haven't done a video in a second. And I'm sitting here thinking, what do I want to do my video on? There's been so many things lately that my heart, as I've tried to get closer to God and... Oh, he's going to take my spot. 1 second. There's so much traffic here today. I don't know what's going on. Gym was full. There's so many good people in the world. You know what I mean? Like I lost my headphone case in the gym. It fell out of my pocket or something. And I was telling the clerk if I lose another one of these, I think I might not have a home anymore. I don't think she got my joke, but Desiree, I think, would kick me out and not even feel bad. You know what I mean? But I don't know why it touched me so much that somebody returned my headphone case. I think it was because I knew I'd be in so much trouble when I got home. So somebody really saved a brother, you know what I mean? And God, I touched my heart, and I was like, you know what? I am so blessed to live here in Morenci. And I don't know if anybody's ever said that. I'm just kidding. I know people have. It's a beautiful place. When I was running on the treadmill, my buddy Bobby was next to me. We've become, good friends from work, and outside of work I've seen him a couple times, and he's been hitting the gym really hard, and it's really cool. I love when I see people like running or something on the road. I'm like, yeah, go girl, go guy. Usually not the guy, I'm usually judging the guy. I'm like, do I look as big as him? Or he looks kind of small, but I asked Bobby, I was like, hey, you don't have any headphones? And for some reason he didn't have any that day, or something with his music on his phone. And I said, you can listen to my music if you want. It's Jesus music though. He's like, hey man, don't worry, I was just lifting the other day and my wife comes up behind me and I was listening to some Baptist hymns or something like that. And it's like, yeah bro, you can listen to me. And it's funny because I was not hesitant, because I love that guy. He's a genuine dude, like for real. Like he is so selfless. Anyways, it's really nice to have both headphones in, right? And initially, I don't know how to describe it because I wasn't unhappy sharing with him, but as I was running, there was a noticeable difference, right, in the tune. But on Sunday, the pastor at the church we're going to talked about the first great commandment, and that's to love God with all your might, mind, and strength, and to love your neighbor as thyself, like unto it, right? And he really focused on that you can't love God without loving other people, and you can't say you love God unless you show love to other people. And lately I've really been struggling with this. I even thought about it the other day. Like, it kind of bothered me a little bit how much love I had for people back in the day, and how recently I felt like fuck people, you know what I mean? They just hurt you and they're whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I've been hurt by a lot of people, and I've had this, it's been challenging for me to feel love for others, like, you know what I mean, like I do for God. Anyways, and I was thinking that and he said it, when you serve other people, you're serving God. And my heart has been so full with love and appreciation and gratitude for my God that it hit different, and I really felt like, I was just sharing that moment with a brother, praising God with our hymns and running and exercising and before work to take care of our families. And it was kind of a cool thing, especially to do with him, because like I said, he's such a cool dude, and then, last night I trained, my sister texted me, she mentored a girl the other day, and she messaged me after work and said, hey, look, Elisha, I was really hoping you could take so-and-so. She really needs somebody that's patient and kind, and I just know that, you'll help her a lot. And I've had this tug back and forth of this training, whether I like it or not. But when my sister asked me, I was kind of like, but for my sister I'd do anything, and I told her, I said, sister, I'll make it happen. You're right. Like, I love you. If it's important to you and this is what you want me to do, I'll do it. I love her so much. She's always been there for me. She never forgets a birthday. Like, always makes me feel loved and good about myself. I'm telling you, I'm so blessed to have her as a sister. And I'm talking about Star, and I just love her so much. Anyways, I took this trainee last night, and because of this sermon that this preacher gave, by the way, I was very critical of, like, I'm really like picking it apart, like, how would I do it, and knowing all the scriptures and all the stories he used and everything, like, I could really, like, well, he should have hit on this or that or whatever, right? It blessed my life. Like, here I am helping this 18-year-old girl, she's so sweet, and she did need my help, and I just felt so, like, I didn't complain. I wasn't upset, frustrated. I really felt like God, the best way I can say it is the preacher gave told the parable of Jesus, the lambs and the goats, and he told the lambs, I think, that you'll be saved in heaven because you fed me when I was hungry, you gave me drink when I was thirsty, and they were like, Lord, when did we do this, and he said, when you do it unto the least of these my brethren, you have done it unto me. And I was thinking about how I was showing my love for God by helping his daughter, and I thought about that at church, how like mentoring was a way I could better serve God's children, to use my talents to bless others, and it just kind of clicked something in my head a little bit. And there's an instance after work where I ran into a friend, and she was just really upset about something that happened at work, a series of events that happened, and the moment wasn't good for me, you know what I mean? I was, for several reasons I don't want to get into, just a long story, but when you have that moment when you're like, you don't have time to listen, you know what I mean? And I was thinking about that in bed the night before I went to church, and how how should I have handled that situation? And in church I realized, I was like, you know what, stopping, pausing, and being willing to uplift her, encourage her, and listen to her was me showing God that I loved him, and I had epically failed in that, and there's a balance. I'm still thinking about it, because it says something that I feel like everybody forgets about that scripture. When you love God with all your might, mind, and strength, you love your neighbor as you love yourself, or you love your neighbor. The second is like unto it, you love your neighbor like yourself. Like, it's all one, all of that is one. And you can love yourself too. Like, how do you love yourself while you're giving everything to other people and giving things to God? And and I thought about, you would never talk ill to God, you would never talk, put down a brother or sister, and you shouldn't do that to yourself. And that's something I want to try to do, to love myself more perfectly. I think I'm the shit, I'm the best, and I'm great, and I'm awesome. That's what I would tell my brothers and sisters, and to be merciful to themselves, and I love God with everything, and that it's so beautiful that God's saying you can love yourself like you love me, Anyways, those are my thoughts, and I'm just so impressed by good people in the world, in that church service. It's probably one of the an experience I'll never forget, really. The passion that I see on these people, that just sing their whole hearts to God and praise his name, and there's just the spirit in that building. I'm surprised it doesn't just blow off, you know what I mean? That heaven doesn't just show up right there. And I cried several times in that meeting, and I even knelt down on my knees, and made sure God knew that my heart was his, And I had one of the people pray for me up front, and he said, brother, you want me to pray for you? And I said, no, but please pray for my children that they'll know Jesus, now they could know him, and like I know him. And that was, when he prayed that for me, that's what I want. And he also said, come on, brother, there's anything you want to pray for? And I said, please pray that I won't be lazy after work, that I can serve my family the right way, and be present for them. And I just thought it was so interesting, because lately my heart has been so full, and I've wanted my kids.
New text message from Desiree Gerstenmere.
I hate that it says Desiree Gerstenmere. She's in my phone as my queen, and I want to change it to my angel, because she is, but we share contacts, and she has her number in her phone, in her contacts. Anyways, I have to go, but anyways, those are my thoughts.